Welcome to Math 1324. This is Chapter 4, Section 2, Example 5, the last example in this chapter, and frankly in the material for the second exam. Okay, so here it says a store has $9,000 monthly advertising budget. Newspaper ads cost $500 each with a limit of $40 per month. Radio ads cost $50 each with a limit of $60 per month, and TV ads cost $3,000 with a limit of $20 per month. About 5,000 people see each newspaper ad. 3,500 hear each radio ad, and 12,000 see each TV ad. How much of each type should be used to maximize the store's exposure? Interpret the results. Okay, so this is very similar to the question we had before. So in here, the first thing I want to do is figure out what we want to figure out. Go to the question that's asked, how much of each type should be used? So how much of each type should be used to maximize the store's exposure? So our actual objective here is going to be the store's exposure. But we also have a couple of variables here, and we have newspaper ads, we have radio ads, and we have TV ads. So we actually have three different variables. Good deal. So let's define what our actual objective is. We want to maximize our objective function, but what is our objective? Well, let's look through this. 5,000 people see each newspaper ad. 3,500 hear each radio ad. And 12,000 see each TV ad. Awesome. That's our objective. Let's find some constraints here. Okay, so for our constraints, notice that we have a $9,000 monthly advertising budget. So the first constraint I'm going to look at will be the budget. So that means that every newspaper ad costs $500 each. So the 500 x1. Every radio ad is $50 each, so plus 50 x2. Plus, and then every TV ad costs $3,000 each. And that should be x3 up here, sorry. And all of that should be less than or equal to the total budget, which is $9,000. Awesome. So we have a limiting factor of the budget, and we also have another limiting factor here, and that would be the number that you can run per month. You just can't keep running ads over and over and over, right? There's a limit. So for the limits, I'll just use red for each one of those. So for newspaper ads, there is a limit of 40 per month, which means that x1 has to be less than or equal to 40. For radio ads, there is a limit of 60 per month, which means x2 is less than or equal to 60. And then TV ads has a limit of 20 per month. So that means x3 is less than or equal to 20. Good. Now, Out of all that, that means S1 is representing the budget. S2 will represent the limit on newspaper ads. S3 will represent the limit on radio ads, and S4 will represent the limit on TV ads. In other words, how many will be left over of those that we did not use. Awesome. Out of all that, we can now create our system of equations. Oh yes, one more thing, sorry. We have the three regular variables must be greater than or equal to 0. Good deal. So our actual system that we're going to create will be the following. We have 500x1 plus 50x2 plus 3000x3 plus S1 plus 0S2 plus 0S3 plus 0S4 plus 0Z is equal to 9,000. Good. For the next one, we have, let's see here. We have x1 plus S2 equals 40, basically. And then everything else is a 0. I'm just going to leave it like that. It's going to be really hard to read otherwise. And then, of course, we have x2 plus S3 is equal to 60. Then we have x3 plus S4 is equal to 20. And then for the last one, be sure to subtract these to the other side, which will make this negative 5,000. Wow. X1 minus 3,500 X2 minus 12,000 X3 plus Z is equal to 0. Whew, awesome. Now, just for future reference here, we're going to have a lot of zeros in this. Okay. It's important that we kind of see where they are because it might be easy to forget them in the initial simplex tableau. Awesome. Now, just a quick question. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different columns. So this is a 5 by 9 matrix. And, okay, so for our matrix, I'm going to go ahead and start it down here. I'm going to go ahead and do the last row. It's easiest for this one. Negative 5,000, negative 3,500. Negative 12,000. 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. There we go. Then I can finish this out. And then I'm going to do 500, 1, 0, 0 there. So 500, 1, 0, 0. Then 50, 0, 1, 0. 3,000, 0, 0, 1. Then basically this. Good. And then the equal column, which is 9,000, 40, 60, 20. Yes, yes. Awesome. Alrighty. Now that we've done this, let's go ahead and find our pivot. Notice, I'm going to go ahead and use orange here. The smallest of the indicators is negative 12,000. So this is my pivot column. As for the pivot row, we do division here. 9,000 divided by 3,000 is 3. 40 divided by 0 is undefined. 60 divided by 0 is undefined. And 20 divided by 1 is 20. Now these two undefineds, they don't matter. They're never going to be the pivot row. But between the 3 and the 20, the smallest number is 3, so this will be my pivot row. In other words, row 1. So my pivot is actually going to be that number there that exists in the row 1, column 3 place. Awesome. At this point, I'll see you in the calculator. Welcome to the calculator. Let's go to Matrix, go right to Edit. And this, again, is a 5 by 9, I believe, which means that there are 45 different elements. So we have, I'm just going to do it this way, 500, 50, 3,000, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 9,000, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 40, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 60, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 20, negative 5, negative 5, negative 5,000, negative 3,500, negative 12,000, 0, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. Whew. It's a lot just typing it in. So let's go ahead and make sure that what we typed in is correct. Now notice that you can't fit everything on the screen, so there's a little arrow. If you move left or right, you'll be able to see all of them. Okay, so 500, 100, negative 5,000, okay. 500, 0, 1, 0, negative 3,500, 3,000, 0, 0, 1, negative 12,000, good, 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 9,000, 40, 60, 20, and 0. Awesome. So we have this in the calculator, so we're going to go to Program, Pivot, Enter again, enter one more time. Now the pivot row we determined was was row number 1, and the pivot column was column number 3. Done. So let's go into Matrix, enter for Matrix A just to see what it looks like, and then do Math, enter, enter. It's a little bit easier to see. Now notice that there's a 1 here, and above and below is a 0. Notice we still have negatives. That means that we are not done. Okay, so as a result, let's go ahead and go back to the notes, and I will find the next pivot. I'll see you there. Welcome back to the notes. I have written down the matrix, and I want you to notice a couple of things here. Now, if I was to read this matrix, 0, 0, 0, what just happened that I'm talking about is x1, x2 will be 0. Both of those are zeros. x3 is not 0. We're just saying 3 of x3, in other words, the 3 TV ads should be used, and s1 should be 0 as well. Now, what this means is that we've used up whatever s1 represented. Now, if we go back to up here, s1 represented the budget, really. So we can use that and get rid of all of the budget. Now, S2 represents the number of ads that are left over for each one. So S2 is the number left over for each one. And notice that even S4, representing the number of TV ads, are 17 of them left over because 3 of them will be used for this solution. And so the total number of people being able to reach is 36,000 here. And that's actually what's happening. We're saying, looking at this, the first thing we might try to do is maximize whatever x3 represented, because x3 is actually the one that's giving us the largest number of, or the largest value for our money at this point. Well, kind of. Not really. But you'll see that in a second. Anyway, now that we have this, we want to find the pivot again. To do that, looking at the indicators, down here, everything to the left of the 1 here, the most negative value is negative 3,300. Now, negative 3,000 is close, but negative 3,300 is our actual pivot column. So this will be our pivot column here. And now we need our pivot row. To figure that out, we need to do division. 3 divided by 1/60th is the same thing as 3 times 60, which is 180. My recommendation is to do the calculator. 3, do the alpha y equals enter, put 3 in the numerator, and then do 1/60 in the denominator, and it will tell you 180. Then we have 40 divided by 0, that is undefined, because we're dividing by 0, so that will never be the pivot row. 60 divided by 1 is 60. And 17 divided by negative 1/60 is negative some number. But because that's negative, that will never be a pivot row. So that's the reason I'm not going to worry about the number. So we have just the 180 and the 60, so the smallest of those is 60. That means that this is in fact the pivot row. Good. Which of course means that this number here is the pivot. Now what row is that? That's row 3 and then column 2. Alrighty, now that we figured that out, let's go back to the notes. See you there. Well, sorry, the calculator. I'll see you there. Okay, welcome back to the calculator. Notice we still have everything in here already, so I'm going to go ahead and go to Program, Pivot. And our pivot was row 3, column 2. So here, row 3, column 2, and that should be the one there. Yeah, it is. So enter, so row 3, column 2, done. Go back into matrix, tell enter for matrix A, and math, enter to see some fractions. Good deal. And I do like to just generally look at the indicators here. Awesome. And so of these indicators, we still have a negative, which means that we are not done. So I will see you back in the notes. Welcome back to the notes. So I have written down the matrix that we just saw. And again, we have a negative indicator. But before we look at that, I want to kind of look and see what's happened here. Notice that this time, only x1 of the 3 variables here are actually 0 this time. So we're actually using a combination of x2 and x3. So for this one, x1 is 0, so s1 is 0, and s3 is 0. So now not only have we used up the entire s1, whatever it represented, which was the budget, but this time s3 was used up, as opposed to last time it was not. So s3, there's nothing left over, s1, there's nothing left over, so that here there's actually nothing left over for either one of them. And the reason for that is because we are actually using on s3, or excuse me, on x2, we're using 60 of them, and x2 represented the maximum could be 60, so there's nothing left over that we could have there. But notice that what happened, in order to reach that, we had to reduce the number of TV ads to 2. So that actually made the leftover number of TV ads to be 18. But notice what happened. We've gone from 36,000 people reached? I guess reached is better, to 234,000. That's huge, just by reducing the number of TV ads down by 1. So just running TV ads isn't necessarily the answer for this. Good deal. Now, what this means is that we're actually still not done, because we still have a negative indicator, which means we're going to want to use some combination of all 3 actually here. Now, I believe X2 represented if I remember correctly, the radio ads, and X1 represented the number of newspaper ads. So there's a negative indicator here, and it's the only negative one, so this is the pivot column. And the next thing we need to do is figure out the pivot row. To do that, we need to divide. 2 by 1/6 is 12. 40 divided by 1 is 40. 60 divided by 0 is undefined, which means we don't use it anymore. And 18 divided by negative whatever is a negative number. So again, neither of those two can be the pivot row. So between the 12 and the 40, the one that's left over, the one that's smallest is the 12. So that means that the first row is the pivot row. There we go. So out of all that, that means that 1/6 there, row 1, column 1, is the pivot, which of course means that I need to see you back in the calculator. I'll see you there. Okay, we're back at the calculator. We still have our matrix in the matrix words. Anyway, go into pivot, and now it's row 1, column 1. Done, and now let's see what that matrix looks like. It looks like this. And now I'm just kind of looking at the indicators at the bottom. None of those are negative, so that means that we're done. This is our final tableau, which means this is the matrix we want to read from. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and write those down, write that matrix down in my notes, and I'll see you there. Have fun. Welcome back to the notes. What you see here is the matrix that was found using the calculator. And again, this is the final matrix because if you look at the indicators here, none of them are negative. So we're done. Okay, now it's important for us to realize which ones are zeros, first of all. And notice that actually this time, the TV column is actually 0. And also, the budget is still 0, which means we're still using the entire budget. But this time, S3 is 0. S2 and S4 are not 0, however. So we have non-zeros of newspaper, radio ads, and then what's also non-zero left over of S2 represents newspapers, and S4 represents TV ads. Okay, so S3 represents radio ads. So we've used all the radio ads we can use. S2 represents the number of newspaper ads we've used. We have not used all of them. Notice that there are in fact 28 of them left over. But if we go back to our requirements, the newspapers are 40. And we're only using 12 of them. So 40 minus 12 is actually 28. But what's interesting is that by this time, we're actually not using any TV ads because this entire thing is 0. That's the reason why S4 should equal 20. Because we have 20 leftover TV ads. It's a little bit interesting here. So just to write down the solutions, We have x1 equaling 12, x2 equaling 60, x3 is 0, the z column 1 equals 270,000, S1 is 0, there's nothing left over of the money, S2 is 28, and that again represents the number of newspaper ads that are left over. S3 is 0, which again represents the number of radio ads that are left over, in other words, the ones that we are not buying. In other words, we're buying out the radio ads. And the TV ads, number S4, is 20. We're not actually buying any TV ads. That's the interesting thing about all this. A lot of people would think that, well, you should buy a lot of TV ads. And the answer is no. Significantly no. By buying no TV ads, you're reaching 270,000 people. By buying the maximum number of TV ads, which is right here, you're only reaching 36,000 people. 36,000 compared to 270,000. That's huge. It's very important that people realize that, and a lot of people may be wondering why. But before we get there, let's go ahead and answer the question that was asked. How many of each type should be used to maximize the store's exposure? It doesn't even want to know how many people, it just wants to know how do you maximize it? What's the mixture that we want? And then interpret the results. So, they should purchase 12 newspaper ads, 60 radio ads, and no or 0 TV ads. Okay. Now let's talk about why. What's important here? Well, what's important is to maximize the number of people that we reach, right? And yes, TV ads reach how many people? 12,000 people each. But how much does each TV ad cost? It costs $3,000. Okay, so let's think of this in terms of dollars per person. Okay, so dollars per person. In other words, how much does it cost the company to reach that person? Well, for TV, it is $3,000 for every 12,000 people, right? But 3,000 divided by 12,000 is 1/4. In other words, 25 cents a person. Now let's look at the radio ads. For radio, what did we reach? Each radio was $3,500 or 3,500 people, and it costs $50. So it'd be $50 for every 3,500 people. 3,500? Yes. So I don't know that one off the top of my head. I could, but I should. Notice what I said there. 0.0143. I'll do it with that. Notice that radio ads are significantly cheaper per person. TV ads are your quarter per person. These are barely, not even 2 cents per person. And then, of course, newspaper would be, let's see here, how much money per, it's $500. And it reaches how many? 5,000. Which is 10 cents per person. So out of all these, the radio is actually the cheapest per person. So when you're looking at this as an advertising person, you're really going to want to look at this more as a per person situation than it is a total number, because you have a fixed budget, right? And so you want to maximize the number of people that you can get from that. And as a result, you want to maximize the one that is most cheap. In other words, you want to maximize the radio ads because they are the cheapest. So you want to buy all those out if you can. And in this case, because we're limiting ourselves to only 60 per month, that means that you're going to use all 60. Whereas if you are purchasing, and then whatever you're left over with, you want to purchase the next cheapest, which is, in this case, newspaper ads. And then purchase all those that you can. But the problem is that we actually run out of money doing that, and so we can only purchase 12 of those. There were more that we could purchase, which is the reason why S2 was... actually, no, there were... Wait. Yeah, there were 28 left over that we could have purchased. None of the radio ads, and then I didn't buy any TV ads because they were the most expensive. And we already had run out of money by buying newspaper ads after having bought the radio ads. Good deal. Now, I hope that kind of clears up what these S's are really representing. They're representing what's left over for whatever constraint it is they're talking about. Okay. Honestly, this is pretty fun stuff for me. All right. Well, guess what? We are done with this chapter. In fact, with this material for this exam. Be sure to check Blackboard for information on what to do next. Have fun.